We are about to connect with Greg Nudelman, who is the principal of Design Caffeine. He's a published author with Wiley Books, who is also one of our sponsors. And he has some really nice surprises for us. He's also, he runs his own practice in San Francisco, and he is a FedEx associate, meaning that he works within the context of the FedEx group, which you will hear about more later today. But let's just bring him on. Hey, Greg.
Hello. Good to be here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So let's begin.
We can see you.
This is Designing Magic Moments with Cross-Platform UX Framework.
Okay.
And, well, first, who? Okay. Is it good?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So I run Design Caffeine. Thank you, Alberta, for kind introduction. And I do everything that's mobile and tablet, mainly UX design. And we're now offering development services as well. And what I do is create customer experience that works. I work with these fine clients, and I've contributed over my 15-year career to these fine UX design books, which all have my perspectives and mention my work. I've recently been a part of the Smashing Magazine book that features 12 of today's top UX authors. Really been an amazing effort for everybody. It's now available for purchase, and I'll tell you how to save a bundle on that if you hang with me till the end of my prezzo. And I have written personally and published 2 books, and this is Designing Search, that is now available in Amazon and other fine retailers, and Android Design Patterns, which is currently on pre-sale, so you can pre-order it from Amazon if you like. And again, I'll tell you a little more about it as we go on. But today, the main topic is what's cross-platform and how do we deal with this. So, what exactly is cross-platform? Well, it used to be this. It used to be internet server, database, maybe Mac and PC was connected to your content. But increasingly what we're seeing is a bevy of touch devices, all different sizes, orientations, capabilities that are used to connect to your content. So how do you deal with this? Well, I've come up with this design framework, the elements of cross-platform experience, that you guys can use in your own work to design what is essentially a really good experience. And you you guys might have been on these webinars where people come on and they tell you all this wonderful stuff you're going to hear, and then they say, well, we can't tell you all about it. You have to buy my book. This is not one of those webinars, okay? I'm going to give you the entire framework today so you can go and do your thing. And if you want more info, then of course you can buy the books. But you're going to get everything you need today. I hope that's all right with everybody. Okay, so this is the framework. It's composed of 5 parts, and you're going to see this over and over again. So don't worry, taking pictures and so forth. But it will be nice if you want to tweet that. You're welcome to. So there's 5 levels to this, and there's 2 parts. First 5 levels. Well, first one is kind of a micro level where there's typing versus multi-touch sensors. Second one is user input versus environmental inputs. The third one is size, small versus large screen. The fourth is personal versus social. And then the last is a kind of a macro level, which is task switching versus flow. And as I mentioned, there's 2 parts. There's the kind of a left brain part, which has typing, user input, small screen, task switching, and the right brain part, which is more symphony and integration and so forth. So there is touch sensors, environmental inputs, larger screen, staying more in the flow, and being social. I'll show you in a minute exactly how to use this, step by step. The first thing to realize is that really all these elements are one. They all combine together to create a really good mobile experience. Or, to put it another way, if you want to quote Ted Nelson and Peter Morville, that everything is deeply intertwingled. Try saying that 10 times fast. Intertwingled. Okay, so let's look at some essential elements of touch experience. One, of course, is search. It's a very fundamental activity we all do on mobile devices. And you can approach it in the traditional sort of way with the keyboard and a mouse and leave all these other elements that are part of the mobile experience, such as a camera, microphone, NFC, a touchscreen. Leave that alone. So that's really what that looks like. This is an early version from Walmart.com, which I think they kind of hope that most people forget about, but I happen to have a screenshot of that, so I'd love to use this as an example of where we were before. Because really, all it's doing is it's saying type it in and then provide your input. So there's really nothing that help you with this. You have to come up with a query and you have to type it in. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. I can't see you all, so it's kind of hard for me to do it without the feedback. So bear with me. On the other hand, you can flip this search problem on its head and approach it a different way. You can say, what other sensors do I have on this mobile device that I can use to search? Well, I have camera, microphone, NFC, touchscreen, and maybe a keyboard. But if I use these other sensors, I may have a different experience. And this is one example, is Amazon Remembers using the camera. And it works like this. You take a picture of your stuff like this. This is really dating me. This is my, I think my undergrad program, this Ever Since Darwin. It's a great book, but I take a picture of it. I click use, and it's sending the photo to Amazon, and literally within seconds it comes back and says, Ever Since Darwin, Reflections of Natural History. Great book. Notice the picture that it came back with is not the same picture that I sent it. So it knew that there were other pictures there. But now that I actually figured out what that was, what that object is, I have access to tremendous variety of everything here. I have the title, I have reviews, I can purchase it, I can recommend it to my friends. I mean, there's really, literally a bevy of stuff that I have access to. Now that I finally got figured out what that object was, and I use the camera to do that. And how does that look in our framework? Well, we have the multi-touch sensors that we use the camera, and we still provided the user input, the impetus for the search. We had to take a picture of that book. I hope that makes sense. Now let me show you what that could look like if we use a little bit more muscle, mobile muscle. Siri is one great example of this. You can ask Siri, what's the temperature outside? And the Siri will tell you that it doesn't matter what the temperature in the room is, it's always room temperature. Just kidding, it's 8 degrees outside. So Siri has used a multi-touch sensor, in this case a microphone, together with your input, which is you told it you wanted the temperature outside, and it used the GPS, which is an environmental input, and its own networking capabilities to figure out exactly what the temperature is outside. But that's not all Siri can do. You can say, Siri, I need to hide a body. And Siri will have an interactive conversation with you. You can say, what kind of place are you looking for? Well, we have reservoirs, mineral foundries, mines, dumps, and swamps. And you're like, wow, this is pretty helpful. So in this case, you actually provided less of an input, because all you told it is, Siri, I have this problem. I've been a really, really bad boy, and I need to hide a body. You didn't tell it exactly what you were looking for. So it created this conversation back and forth with you using multi-touch sensors, microphone, and it's using environmental input to provide you with interactive conversation to give you the answers. But that's not all. You can say, Siri, where can I get some drugs? And Siri will respond, I found 2 addiction treatment centers fairly close to you. Right, so now we not only have the multi-touch sensor capability, environmental input with GPS, but we now have the social pressure. So it's okay if you want to kill somebody, but it's really not okay if you want to do something recreational. Hey, we're all adults here. So there's this fundamental shift from having the user input everything to having the software in combination with the hardware and the sensors providing more of the inputs. And we want to really take advantage of that in our designs. Here's one example of this. This is Android 4.0 facial recognition. Now, I was blown away by this feature. I hope you guys will be too. This is really cool. So this is a typical screen that most of you see that do have an iOS. Now, I can't see you all, but I assume some of you have an iOS device. How many of you seen the screen? I assume most of the hands came up. So this is a screen that a lot of people see day in and day out to unlock their phone. It's not really a great screen. It's kind of a necessary evil because it requires you to type. It's all initiated by you. You have to remember those 4 numbers. It's a very personal code because you don't really ever want to share that code with anybody else. But most importantly, it's a task switch. You didn't pick up the phone to unlock it. You didn't pick up your iPhone. You go, man, I'm going to unlock this thing, and this is it. This is going to be awesome. So you type in 4 digits, and then you go, that's better, right? You picked up the phone to send a tweet about how great this presentation is, right? So you had to switch the task from tweeting, thinking about the tweet, to, I have to remember these darn 4 digits again. And your personal security of this is not really all that personal because if you're, say, on public transportation, you're on BART, you're in the office, somebody can easily look over your shoulder and memorize those 4 digits. And so in order to do this, there's literally a huge shift from left to right. You can see that there's a completely different screen. It's a completely different shift there. Enter Android's facial recognition. I'm going to show you in a second exactly how this works. I'm going to try it with my onboard webcam. Tell me when you can see the webcam. You can see it? All right, so let me see if I can shift it to, there it is. Okay, good. So you can see it. Now I can see it, so you can see me. So there's my phone, it's off. All right, there's my setup here. And I turn it on, and notice the camera in the front is looking right at me. And it immediately unlocks. Do you guys see that? Want to see it again? Okay, so I turn it off. I turn it back on. It's looking right at me, and it unlocks. So literally, this is where the magic moment comes in. Because I didn't really need to do anything other than just turn this thing on. The hardware and the software working together was enough to make everything work. Now, your multi-touch sensors, right, your camera, combined with the environmental input, you holding the phone a certain way, you change the task from having a complete switch to now being a task that's in the flow. And guess what? It's way more personal, even those 4 digits, because this is now your face. This is very Mac-like, because if you think about unpacking your first Mac or any Apple product, it takes a picture of you as the very first act, so personalize it. This is exactly the same deal, but even taking a step beyond that. It's a very, very interesting approach. And look at this. This is an interesting part here, this environmental inputs. There's a reason why I mentioned that. Because things we do unconsciously and automatically as part of the normal behavior become these environmental inputs. Things that we do normally and naturally. Things like scratching, things like shaking, all kinds of multi-touch, all kinds of accelerometer stuff. This is the kind of stuff that we need to start looking at in our mobile designs in order to create this magic, create this delight. So, and if you happen to be in your bed cave and it's dark and you're wearing your day clothes or your night clothes, and you happen to be Batman and not Bruce Wayne at that moment, you can say, well, sorry, I didn't recognize you, but you can still unlock it in the normal way. So remember to provide the back door if your magical experience isn't quite right for the task. So yeah, flow is a really important element of this framework, and that's one of the macro elements. And one of the ways we can use the flow is also using this browse best bets pattern. This is a typical implementation of this. It's not the best one, but it works. This is Amazon.com. They make a few $1 billion a year using this. So not too bad, not too shabby. And you can see there's a bunch of recommendations for you, and it's a nice little carousel pattern. And there's actually an article right now out on Smashing Mag. If you go do that, there's an actual code for you if you're running an Android phone, and best practice implementation, all sorts of good goodies there. So check it out. I'll tweet that after the talk for you guys. So this is what they do here. But notice the rest of the screen is all junk. This is a logo. I don't care about this. Welcome. Doesn't even know who I am. Unfortunately, there's my name here. But literally, I would say 80% of the screen is junk. This is the only part I care about. I don't want an Amazon card. I don't want a gift gold box. I don't want any of that stuff. This is all junk. All junk. This is the only thing I care about. This is the stuff that's mine. It relates to me. Personal and flow. Enter a different pattern to take more advantage of this. This is called a two-dimensional more like this, or 2D more like this pattern. And it literally is better on the large screen, which is why the large screen symbol is there. And that's what it looks like on a large screen. You can have your categories listed up and down right here, and then your samples, visual samples, and maybe subcategories across. And there's the see all on the very right. So if you exhaust all the samples here, you didn't see what you wanted, you can always click the see all, and then you actually put into a search result that matches books that are maybe best bets. So the interesting thing about it is you can think about this as literally a carousel ride. So each one of these is a little mini carousel ride. And think of it as literally a carousel ride at the fair. You have to remember that your horses need to look amazing. You have to end at the right time. All that is in the article. And of course, if the carousel is in the right representation, you can click the see all, which actually takes you into more kind of a roller coaster ride of search results, which is a better vehicle for looking at a lot of stuff that is similar, a lot of information. This just gives you a really good overview. And think about it. You can put stuff in here, into this matrix, that is relevant to you, and that is local. And this is from categories that you have shopped in before. This is a killer functionality. It's completely underused right now. If you want one thing you can take away from this presentation, take this one. This is one app that actually does do this well. This is Netflix, of course, and they have been playing with this pattern for a very long time. They've even improved this top row tremendously. So there's a lot of stuff here in this pattern. So if you sell visual stuff, or if you are in social media or news business, anything like that, definitely look into this pattern. And the way that we do use it is you have a multi-touch sensor because you're swiping stuff up and down, using the touch screen, using a large screen, using full surface of the screen completely. All that stuff is very personal, and it keeps you in a state of flow. All the things you want, really. So that difference between small screen and large screen is not a small thing. A lot of people have that are really brilliant have been thinking a lot about this, and this is my take on this. That large screen, you want to use content as navigation. You don't want to have buttons. You want to actually be able to tap things that you are interested in and use that as a button. You don't want to have buttons and links. So just try to get away from that as much as possible. You also want large sweeping gestures when you're talking about a large tablet, because the device itself lends itself really well to this kind of interaction. You also want to use multi-touch, which means 2-finger, 3-finger, 4-finger, 5-finger gestures. These are the things we need to get really into. This is another something that Josh Clark and I really agree on at Global Moxie, if you want to follow him. He's a brilliant guy, co-author actually of my Designing Search book. He's got a perspective in there. He's got his own books out. So this is one of those things that it's a huge trend in the future. Really, you want to look into this. Large screen, multi-touch gestures. And C-Swipe, which I'm going to demo to you guys after this. If you're patient and you hang out, then you'll get to see the live demo of this, hopefully. So, again, a lot about the state of flow. You want more flow in a larger device. The larger the device, the more it is about staying in one place, being in a state of flow. And devices are different because ergonomics are very different. If you look at a mobile phone, this is really the hot zone for a mobile phone. It's a one-handed grip. You hold it in your right hand, and this is the arc that is subscribed by the thumb. So if you look at the design of this, this is actually really well designed. you can see I can check off these items, and I can add items, and I can favorite items very easily with one hand. So there's really not much else to it. There's these other buttons that are inaccessible, but it's rare that I'm going to edit the item. It's much more common that I'm going to add an item or I'm going to check off an item. So it's really optimized for this work. Now look at the tablet. You cannot hold and operate a tablet in a single hand. This is one determination of a large tablet. Now a medium tablet is different again. It's a different beast. And we don't have time to get into all this right now, but there's a lot of this in the book, in the Android Design Patterns book. There's all different kinds of devices. So this one on the large tablet, you tend to hold it in two hands, and you tend to rest the bottom of it on your belly or on your lap or on some solid surface like a table. And what this lands to is this bottom part is pretty much inaccessible without letting go of the device, which is not what you want to do. It's not a convenient gesture. But instead, where you can reach are these little wings on top. So this is the hot spots here. This is where you can reach very easily when you're holding a tablet. And if you have a tablet in your lap right now, you can kind of try this out and see what you think. So what does that mean for us designers? Well, it means that we have to use different gestures for different devices, perhaps, and approach them differently, because they are really different devices. When you're talking about a tablet, it lends itself very well to copying magazines and books and paperbacks and so forth, because the form factor is very similar. It literally looks like a book. It's about the size of a book, so you're going to want to flip pages, just like you do on a book. It's easy to do. It's a natural kind of gesture, which is why on the iPad you see a whole bunch of different sort of animations that have to do with this. There's many, many companies that have put a lot of work into making this realistic. And it's not an anachronism. It's a classy transition. This is something that's classy. This is something that the device lends itself very well to. It's a multi-touch sensor on the large screen that keeps you within the flow. You do it unconsciously and automatically. Now, enter a small phone. The amount of writing on the small phone is much less than there is on the large tablet. Also, the device is very small, so you tend to hold it in one hand. Now, when you hold it in one hand, swiping from right to left is actually very difficult. So a lot of people that try out a couple of swipes, then they're just like, okay, maybe I can just tap it. So tapping it is much easier than it is to swipe, especially from right to left. Now, swiping it the other way is actually a little bit easier, because as you saw that, remember that hotspot. But the main thing is the transition here. It becomes chart junk very quickly, because the amount of writing is very small. You can scan this within 3 seconds, and then you want to switch the page. And guess what? You have that silly transition again, and again, and again. So it's not really for this type of device. You want something that's optimized for one-hand use, and you want to use most of that surface for the book content, not to put chart junk in there. This is another example that uses multi-touch on a small device. This is a Reckner app. This is a calculator. And notice right off the bat, it's a really good idea. It seems like a really cool thing. But once you start using it, you figure out that most of the time when you use a calculator, you use one hand. This thing makes you do two hands, as you can see on the right bottom hand, right bottom. And you have to remember all these gestures, which is really no big deal, but it's the fact that you have to use two hands. As soon as you get two hands, you kind of lost the game on the devices. Now, this does not apply to games, okay? I just want to make very clear distinction. Games is a committed activity. You're in there full time. You're looking at this. But when you're doing this routine tasks, like data entry and routine simple things, you want to do it one-handed. This is another example where you need two-handed gestures. You can actually see the only gesture that you can do one-handed is actually swipe to complete. And that's a pretty brilliant gesture when you think about it. If I can swipe to complete a task, that's really cool. And that fits with the mental model and actual physicality of the device. It's fantastic. But all these other ones, I actually need to use two hands. Now imagine I just got a phone call from somebody. I have to let go of the device. I have to let go of the device and whatever else I was doing, and actually pinch and stretch and do all these gestures to enter a new appointment task. Not a very is very cool, but it actually isn't very functional. And this is, of course, clear. So try this out by yourself. So on the smaller screen, you want one-handed gestures that mainly you can do with a thumb, such as tap, tap and hold, C-swipe. We're going to see that in a minute. Horizontal swipe, vertical swipe, etc. Things that are very easy to do with one hand on the device, just with the thumb. So small screen state of flow is different from large screen state of flow. And on the small screen, how do we do flow? Well, one of the ways that we can do that is with immersive experiences. And this is something I call Swiss Army knife navigation in the new book, Android Design Patterns. Now, take this, for example. This is a typical example of an e-commerce app. It's from Amazon. How many of you have used that? Okay, some of you have. Okay, so it's pretty typical, right? There's not really a problem. There's an app bar here and a tab bar on the bottom. Everything fits with the Apple guidelines. Well, guess what? 24% of the screen, if you measure pixels, is actually devoted to chart junk, not to the thing that you want to be looking at, which is an actual search results. As a result, they can only show you 3 and a little teaser. So only 3 results on the screen. Now, if you have a device in front of you of any kind that is not a touch device, maybe a laptop, maybe a desktop, try covering up about a fourth of that screen with your fingers. This is what that experience looks like. You would never have a web application that covers a quarter of the screen with chart junk. It's just unheard of. Yet on the touch devices, this is what we end up doing a lot of times. But that's not all we need to do. We can do it a different way. For example, this Angry Birds app covers 0%. This is a semi-transparent button that you can use to tap and get the menu, but the rest of the screen is all devoted to the task of squishing the Angry Birds. For launching the Angry Birds at the pigs, and squishing the pigs. Very, very cool stuff. Probably #1 download app, but it's not the only app that uses this pattern. This is a very common pattern in games, but we have not used it yet for e-commerce. We have not used it yet for reading apps. We have not used it for all number and manner of apps, and it's time we looked at that. This is something I call hot corner design pattern, and that's what it would look like if you put it into the Amazon app. First of all, you have this thing called the filter strip on top. Again, a different design pattern. The filter strip is semi-transparent, which means you can actually read through it, which means you got 0% of the screen covered with navigation. And then you can tap this guy right here to get the menu you know and love from from Apple, that is complete with the tab bar that has a cart and home and so forth. But notice how many more results you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the tip. So now you have just increased the working area of your app by 33% at least, if I'm doing my math correctly. That's huge. Can you imagine? It's like having a Macy's store that suddenly added a whole block to their display. That's 33% more stuff that you can see on the single screen. So compare this again with that. So this tab bar is really a set of training wheels. That worked fine when we were first starting out, and we all learned to ride, and it was really fun. But now it looks as ridiculous as this, because now you have a Harley. We're up to iPhone 5, and we're up to Android 4, and training wheels just look ridiculous, which is why this is strangevehicles.com. We no longer need to have that. People are savvy enough to figure out if there's only one button, you can tap that button to get the menu. I've done the actual study on that. I pushed 25 people through. Guess what? All 25 people, when they saw a single button, they clicked that button to figure out what it did. They can figure that out. Just look at Angry Birds. Everyone, even my 4-year-old can play Angry Birds. So, try this out. Okay, this is one company that has done it already, and this is Target. And so it's a major app here in the U.S. if you guys are watching internationally. And they have this little thing I officially decided to call PipTick. So it's this little PipTick you tap, and up comes the menu. Now notice the menu has 6 spots. If you actually did this in the in this manner, using the regular tab bar, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and more. Correct? So they would have to sacrifice one of these guys. They have to maybe cut the cute doggy, or cut out their Target stores, or cut out my Target or lists or something. They would have to cut 2 of these out and to say more. And look, they would have to cut out all their pretty icons and their branded theme and all of that stuff. Well, you don't need to do that anymore. People have figured it out. You can tap this little thing, it comes up, and then the rest of the screen goes dark, very much like Angry Birds, very much like what we've been preaching for a few years. And lo and behold, you have all 6 things that are all branded, all in their colors, etc. All that works out. But you don't need to just limit yourself to one corner or one little piptic. You can put shortcuts in every corner. This is 4-corner shortcuts, or in 3 corners or 2 corners, whatever you like. Notice there's the back, there's the filter, there's the menu, there's the wish list. You can figure out what you want to put in there. It's really, it's up to you. But this is something that devotes the entire screen to the task of what people are actually immersed in, which is looking at search results. And every one of these corners cannot be hit by accident. This is something that you have to deliberately actually tap. So there's way more about this in both of my books, Android Design Patterns and the Smashing Mobile book that just came out. And I'll tell you, again, how to save some money on these if you're interested. Now, let me tell you a little bit more. We're running a little bit late, so I'll just run through this. This is Mad About Shoes tablet app. This is just a concept, but it's going to tell you a little bit more about this. So let's say you have a tablet, and it's all about shoes. So Mad About Shoes. So you have different kinds of shoes clustered together. Maybe you have the newest things on top, but you kind of have different kinds of shoes clustered. And then use content as navigation. Perhaps you can swipe around this collection. You can zoom in and zoom out on different things. And maybe you can tap a boot. So you tap this boot, it displays. You tap the hot corner to get the menu, to change the color on the boot. You use multi-touch to tell you what you want, which is maybe rivets, and what you don't want, which is the heel. And then you can get back a whole bunch of boots with rivets and no heel. Then you can say, hey, personal assistant, and this is actually an interesting trend because companies like, say, Card Munch and TaxBrain, they actually have a personal assistant that is remote and virtual. So this is not Siri we're talking about. This is actual people that are behind the scenes, kind of like a Mechanical Turk or a Wizard of Oz type of experience, where the presentation is consistent. So you have a very, very consistent presentation, but whoever is behind the scenes manning this is actually a human being that is using machine intelligence together with what they know about you to give you very, very high touch, high level of service. So you can call up your virtual digital assistant using another corner, and you can say, tell me which of these boots is going to go with my outfit. You can activate the camera and show them what the outfit looks like, and they will give you some good advice. So this is literally a combination of all these factors. Typing, user input, environmental input, multi-touch sensors, using the size of the tablet correctly, using this tension between personal and social with the virtual assistant, and staying in the sense of flow. So literally, it's about mastering the elements. So how would you master the elements? Well, here's some resources to help you out. As promised, here's some really cool quotes right here. I'm actually going to paste them into the streaming here, into the chat box. Now this is Droid Patterns on Bitly, and you can pre-order this at 43% off. Now, I don't control Amazon prices. I do know that they're going to be higher probably when the book actually comes out in March. So by pre-ordering the book, you can save some money. So if you think this is something that you're interested in, there's a really nice quote here by Theresa Neal, who wrote the foreword. She's the author of Mobile Design Panels Gallery. Very, very thankful for her to write in the foreword. But as I say, I don't want you to pay more for it than you have to. So that's not what this is about. So if you think you need it, I would consider pre-ordering now because you're going to save some money. If you don't need it, don't bother. This is another one that, again, is co-written with 12 other people. I got the special code directly from the head of the Smashing Media this morning. By using this code, you can get 20% off. And it's bit.ly Smashing Mobile. And this code is only active for 24 hours. Again, I can't control it. I don't make any money off of this. So you guys, it's just for you guys, okay? So that's all there is to it. And now I'm going to show you, I'm going to take some questions, but first I wanted to show you the C-Swipe live. Okay, if you guys are ready. So I'm going to turn off the screen, and hopefully you can see my phone now.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to do my unlock magic here. And 40 snaps, that's useful. Okay, there we go. So this is a C-Swipe. Now, this has been developed inside Design Caffeine, and this is something that we occasionally do for our clients. We do both design and coding services, and this is one that is going to be coming up soon on Smashing Magazine along with the code. This is kind of a freebie, a giveaway, but I wanted to show you guys what that looks like. So let's say you have a page, you're looking at this, there's some content on it, and notice there's really no menu here. And that's deliberate, because to get to the menu, all you have to do is do this very natural swipe, and then you have access to the menu. So did you guys see that? So no matter where you are really on the device, you can do the swipe, and the menu appears, and you're able to then select from a menu and do certain action, for example. And it works for any hand you want. So I can do it with my left hand and still get the menu. And notice I can do swiping up and down, and this thing doesn't come up. I can do it left to right. I don't get this menu. Only when I do a specific gesture that is very, very peculiar, very, very specific to people that have opposing thumbs. So in other words, a monkey would not be able to activate this. Only humans, right? Because notice, this gesture of a thumb is actually one of the most natural things you can do. Try it out. If you have a thumb, you can try this. Okay, grab your phone, and just kind of swipe it. If you swipe it just right, get the menu, and then you're able to select something from it. And then there's other tricks and stuff with it, like how to get more functions out of it and so forth. But you're able to get the menu pretty much anywhere you are on the device, which is kind of a big deal when you think about it, because these tablets keep getting larger, right? Everybody seen the new Windows tablets? These touch screens are 21 inches big. They're huge. These things are humongous. They're 18 inches, 20 inches, 21-inch large things where you would be, to really use one properly, you'd have to be prop it up on the table and stand up in front of it and use it as a kind of a large tablet that you're standing in front of. And imagine having to constantly reach up and down to get to the menu. It's really quite silly to do that. You no longer need to do that. By using this pattern, you can just swipe anywhere you are on the screen to get the contextual menu. So you don't need to be reaching out to really do much of anything. So this is C-Swipe, and like I said, this is kind of a just a little demo of our capabilities, and it's coming up on Smashing along with the source code.
All right, Greg.
So at this point, I'll take some questions if there are any. I'll just hang out for a few minutes and.
That would be lovely, Greg. Thank you so much. I see people here are really excited.
Oh, thank you guys. Awesome to be here. And thanks to Roberta for organizing everything. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Will you show your face to us?
I'll try. Let's see.
Okay, I want the Wolverine T-shirt.
Okay. I'll try to do my best here.
Okay.
Hello. Can you see me?
Hello. Yes, we can see
my
you.
head's probably cut off, right?
Greg.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, I have you full screen, so I'm not going to turn the webcam here. We have a few minutes for questions. We're changing the format a little bit because we're running a little behind. So initially we had thought we would do a Q&A session with the first three speakers, meaning Greg, David, and Aaron, but David and Aaron graciously agreed to, if you could hold your thoughts, we will do a larger Q&A session at the end. So do we have questions for Greg? Yes, one is coming.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of movement towards mobile-first design, and a lot of designers, and that's how they want to approach everything that we're doing. How does that kind of approach fit in with these very specific recommendations that you have?
I apologize. I couldn't really hear the question. Alberta, would you mind repeating it?
Would you mind coming up here?
Hello?
Yes, we're coming.
Yeah, I lost you guys. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, the question is simply,
Sorry, we haven't solved every problem yet, right?
Can you hear me now?
That's only for the live feed. You need to talk into the other
Microphone, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, okay, well, it was supposed to be a quick question. The question is just that,
okay, I
a lot
can
of
hear.
our designers, a lot of people I work with are talking more and more about mobile-first design. And that's how they want to approach every sort of, new application that we're designing. Whereas you have really taken us into sort of the weeds of the specific specificities of big tablets, small tablets, phones, etc. So I was just wondering how you would reconcile this, this movement.
Oh, I think this is there's an easy answer to this. I think mobile first is absolutely the way to go. In fact, there was a slide in this deck that I removed for brevity purposes. It's exactly said, approach this mobile first, because mobile has probably the most sensors. It's always with us. Now it has very, very capable multi-touch, accelerometer, gestures, all different stuff. So it really is the best place to start. And what you do after you've done, that's for most things. I mean, if you're making an e-reader, you really want to be thinking along different platforms. But for most things like e-commerce, social media, you want to start thinking mobile first for sure. But what I want to encourage people to do is not just immediately go with the latest buzzword, which is responsive design. Now, responsive design is an excellent approach, but it doesn't work as well right now as the native apps. Now, maybe it will in a little while, but at the moment, it just isn't quite there yet. So, what you want to be looking at is really what you're gaining and what you're giving up by going with one size fits all, because it doesn't. It doesn't always. But for things that are content rich, you want to go with responsive. But for things that are much more around data entry, much more around GPS and all this kind of digital magic stuff, you cannot do this digital magic right now using HTML5. You just can't. So look into this. But mobile first is an excellent place to start.
Another question? Anyone have another question?
Does
that help?
Want to track up here and ask Greg a question? I think folks here are ready for lunch, Greg. Which
We need to release the hostages and let them go to lunch. Okay.
Greg, thank you so much for being with us.
Okay,
today.
yeah, I don't want to be the last act before the sandwiches, yes. Yeah, I can't be the last act before the oysters and champagne.
Okay.
Enjoy, you guys.
You're going to email us with the codes and everything that we need to do.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.